On April 28, 2021, Miguel Lamboy walked into the sᴜᴘᴘᴏᴛ Police Department and reported a dead body on his property in Crestone, Colorado. When officers searched the premises, they discovered the mummified remains of 45-year-old Amy Carlson, who went by Amy. Her body had been enshrined, tucked inside a sleeping bag and wrapped in strands of Christmas lights. Although her eyes had rotted away weeks earlier, glitter had been applied to the sockets. Sage burned in the room to hide the smell of decomposition. Her skin had turned the color of gray-blue, and she had been dead for weeks or even a month. Her death had not been reported to the authorities because her followers were worshiping her body, praying at her feet. They believed that she was the Mother God who had suffered and sacrificed herself to help them ascend to a higher consciousness. So what happened to the Love Has Won cult and their leader Amy Carlson? And were they responsible for crimes that have yet to be uncovered? Amy Carlson was the oldest of 3 sisters, born just outside Wichita, Kansas. When she was 9, her parents divorced, and she spent the rest of her childhood bouncing between their 2 homes. She eventually moved to Texas, finally landing in Houston. She continued her teen years in church choir and theater. Her followers believe her divinity began to manifest at this time through voices and memories of past lives, although her family denies these claims. In her 20s, she was married, divorced, and had 3 children. She never took to parenting, and her mother described her as a poor maternal figure. It wasn't until 2007 that Carlson took to fringe websites on the internet and found what she believed to be a higher purpose. In the mid to late 2000s, Carlson began to frequent a website, lightworkers.org. It's here that she first disclosed that she was experiencing supernatural phenomena. She claimed she received a prophetic declaration from an angelic being that declared she would be President of the United States. She met a man, Amerith WhiteEagle. They communicated through the forums and spoke more and more often about their ideas on spirituality, shamanism, and lightwork. By 2007, Carlson was ready to leave behind her life and start her future in Crestone, Colorado, an area with an otherworldly reputation. Crestone formed as an old gold mining town in 1880. A portion of local land was later converted from mining territory to the Baca National Wildlife Refuge. And in the late 1970s, a Canadian couple took ownership of the over 200,000 acres. Foothills on this land were deeded to spiritual groups with the purpose of providing a sanctuary for the world's religions. Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, Taoists, and more came in droves. By the 1990s, the area had become a mecca, a destination for spiritual vagabonds seeking enlightenment. It is known as the New Age religious capital of the world, and it contains more spiritual centers per square foot than any other place on the continent. The openness of this spiritual community extended beyond religion. The nearby San Luis Valley is known for more UFO sightings than Roswell, and it's been called the Bermuda Triangle of the West by some. Charmingly, there's even a site nearby Crestone known as the UFO Watchtower. As a result of its history, many come to Crestone looking for truth, some secret behind the veil, and Carlson was no different. 2 years after leaving her family, she reappeared on January 14, 2009, in a YouTube video on WhiteEagle's channel. WhiteEagle and Carlson quickly began to regularly upload videos. They contained landscape shots of the mountains outside Crestone, alongside positive affirmations delivered in voiceover. Beginning in 2012, Carlson began to appear in front of the camera, and she delivered messages of peace and love to her Earth allies. Carlson had adopted the belief that she was Mother God, and she required a twin flame, a Father God. In 2012, she left WhiteEagle for Miguel Lamboy, who she would later call Archangel Michael Silver. In the years to come, she would select other male followers for her own sexual gratification. Her move to Lamboy's residence marks the creation of the Love Has Won cult. Miguel would be the first to join in worshiping her as Mother God. As he fulfilled logistical roles in the group, such as later establishing it as a limited liability company and a nonprofit organization, Carlson would develop the tenets of her belief system. She drew from New Age spirituality, historical myths, and conspiracy theories for her initial teachings. For example, she began by discussing Ashtar Command, an idea from the 1950s. George Van Tassel, a ufologist and claimed contactee, channeled an extraterrestrial being named Ashtar. In the early 1950s, many contactees and channelers used Ashtar as a cornerstone for their narratives. Many claimed they were in contact with Ashtar and a galactic law enforcement agency known as Ashtar Command. They were often represented as Pleiadians or human-like aliens. They were believed to be saviors coming to planet Earth to rescue humanity. And as these predictions failed to come true, believers dwindled. Carlson also claimed that she would lead 144,000 faithful followers into the fifth dimension. This number has biblical significance. In the book of Revelations, 12,000 followers from the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were to be saved before the apocalypse. The total number of those saved would be 144,000. Carlson's teachings evolved over time, and however cohesive these initial beliefs were, they quickly became fluid and difficult to track. She claimed that a planetary ascension would occur along with an evolution in human consciousness. Humanity would ascend from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. Later, she adopted the narrative of a martyr. She would ascend to the fifth dimension as an act of sacrifice to evolve and therefore save humanity. She insisted that she had lived through 534 reincarnations and lived for 19 million years, that she had been Christ, Joan of Arc, Cleopatra, and more. Her following began to grow as she broadcast over YouTube. Some came to Crestone to follow her in person, while others cultivated their faith over the internet. Behind the scenes, Carlson began to drink heavily and lash out at followers. Andrew Profaci joined the group in 2014 after a horrible car accident that killed his friend and left him horribly injured. While in physical therapy for a crushed pelvis, he took to New Age ideas and stumbled on Love Has Won. He quickly rose into a leadership role and was appointed a Father God. In an interview, he claimed that Carlson would begin drinking heavily after dinner and smoked marijuana, while she prescribed a life of abstention to her followers. He stayed with the group for less than a year before leaving the Crestone compound. In 2018, Carlson found her final Father God, Jason Castillo. Jason had raised a family of 4 in California and later Nevada. His sister claimed that he began to use crystal meth and talked to his family about the teachings of Love Has Won. He left his family to join Carlson in Crestone, and he became her right hand. The resident followers began to upload their own video series of updates from the First Contact ground crew. It's clear their following was growing, and it would eventually reach 20 to 30 residents on site. But what was responsible for the cult's growth? To provide a framework of understanding, Dr. Stephen Hassan outlines the BITE model, a formula used by authoritarians and cult leaders to shape the minds of their constituency. Behavior control. This can be the restriction of physical location, clothing, habits, and more. Love Has Won members were instructed to separate from unsupportive family members, donate funds, or purchase needless psychic surgeries. Their sleeping and eating habits were controlled by Carlson and Castillo, and they were instructed to remain celibate and drug-free. Information control. Members receive a regulated diet of information that has been distorted or restricted in some way. For example, Love Has Won believed they would survive an apocalypse similar to Revelations, and Carlson's alcohol addiction was portrayed as medicinal, necessary for treating her psychic pain. Thought control. The implementation of thought-stopping practices like dancing, humming, praying, and more. These practices are meant to prevent questioning while subjects are being indoctrinated. Often, Carlson wielded shame by publicly berating members for mistakes, or Castillo would threaten violence. Daily schedules included dancing, praying, and manual labor. Emotional control. Members receive emotional manipulation to enhance control too. Fear and self-loathing are leveraged to prevent members from leaving or escaping and turn their blame inward. The Love Has Won cult would encircle members and berate them, blaming them for real and fictional slights, sometimes claiming that mistakes from past lives, hundreds of years ago, were the source of discontent and self-loathing now. Through their continued uploads, it was clear the group was beginning to degenerate. Carlson leaned more on Castillo and her followers, turning to the bottle more frequently. She explained that she needed it to numb her pain as she psychically battled a secret cabal. Around this time, the group leveraged their community for the creation of an online New Age supply and supplement store. Gaia's Whole Healing Essentials, an LLC in Lamboy's name, sold books, art, crystals, and more. They sold colloidal elixirs that contain insoluble particles of other materials, often metals. Most notably, they sold colloidal silver. In the past, silver was used to prevent infections because it was toxic for bacteria, algae, and fungi. It has been used throughout history as a topical treatment of wounds, as a vessel to transport water, and more. In the 1930s, the medicinal application of silver was replaced with modern antibiotics. In the 1990s, there was a resurgence of colloidal silver sellers who claimed bountiful health benefits that were unsubstantiated by science. Gaia's Whole Healing Essentials received a warning letter from the FDA after they claimed that their colloidal silver could help prevent or treat COVID-19. Dangerously, Love Has Won members would simply melt various metals like the heads of cigarette lighters and sell these as colloidal elixirs. Carlson was a heavy user of colloidal silver, which came with serious side effects. Most notably, users suffer from argyria, a bluish-grayish discoloration of the skin caused by a distribution of the silver in the body tissue. It can also cause neurological problems, kidney damage, headaches, fatigue, and more. Her physical health quickly deteriorated. Castillo carried her from room to room, often leaving her in the shower for hours at a time to alleviate pain. She asked to be taken to a hospital several times, but her followers refused, claiming that they wouldn't know how to heal her psychic wounds, or they would hijack and abduct her as their leader. In mid-April, the ground team claimed Mother God wasn't well and she would be ascending soon. Viewers of their live streams contacted local authorities to perform a wellness check, but they were turned away. On April 17th, one member claimed that Mother God was gone and at peace. Carlson's body was later recovered by authorities. Autopsy results indicate that she was 5'4" and weighed 75 pounds at the time of her death. The coroner found alcohol, opioids, marijuana, and very high levels of silver in her system. Anorexia, substance abuse, and heavy metal poisoning hastened her death. During the process of recovering Carlson's body, 7 arrests were made for the abuse of a corpse and child endangerment, as juveniles lived in the home at the time. However, all charges would later be dropped. Many continue to battle to fill the power vacuum created by Carlson's passing. In the aftermath, Love Has Won has splintered into separate factions. Jason Castillo, former Father God, was ostracized and formed his own faction known as Joy Reigns. However, his following was greatly reduced, and the majority of his public videos are threats and blame against the other splinter, 5D Full Disclosure. All Love Has Won social media properties on Facebook and YouTube were renamed 5D Full Disclosure. Frighteningly, 5D Full Disclosure continues to sell supplements, recruit followers, and build pipelines for their organization. They plan to develop a charter school program known as Crystal Schools. Their website contains monthly and yearly curriculums for purchase. Troublingly, there are crimes that have yet to be answered for. An anonymous member of the group was at the Crestone site for 10 months until he was driven from the compound. Castillo told him he didn't have the right energy and sentenced him to 3 days in the wilderness to fight his darkness. This member was later found naked in the mountains of Colorado, dehydrated and staring at the sun. Cactus needles pierced his feet, and his family claims he was under the influence of drugs. Even during his deprogramming, he continued to stare at the sun in search of light codes, talking of planetary frequencies that were influencing his thoughts and emotions. This subject was lucky enough to escape with his life. However, others have not been so lucky. Jennifer Driver, also known as Mountain Sun, went missing on October 16, 2021. She was last seen in the North Crestone campground area. She was 5'4", 170 pounds with gray hair and brown eyes. She was believed to have hiked to the North Crestone Lake with her backpack, sleeping bag, and blue tent. An extensive ground and aerial search was conducted, but no sign of Driver was ever found. After police released an initial notice online, they uncovered information a few days later that Driver was last seen with a member of the Love Has Won group. No additional information has been released since. Love Has Won is the story of a group that was so desperate for a deeper truth, they invented it. Amy Carlson, a misguided woman who was desperate for significance, found it in the stories she told herself. Eventually, she shared those stories with those who were lost enough to listen. Tragically, some lost their families and futures, while others may have lost their lives.